fear spread throughout the nations like wildfire. There was nothing the police or the military could do to counter the smiling faces. The only ones who had any chance of stopping these smiling faces were the omniscient and almost godlike professional assassins. The key players behind the scenes of the Four Powers utilized their connections and called upon the group known as Killer 7.
Hi, this is Matt Casamassina. I'm the editor-in-chief of IGN Cube, and today we're going to bring you the official review of Killer 7, one of the most bizarre and interesting, not to mention different games to come out this generation. Chances are you're listening to this review in order to get some sort of validation on your purchase, or maybe you're looking for a reason not to get it. Truth is, this is going to be a really debated game because it is so radically different, and because a lot of people just aren't going to get it. There are a couple things you should remember when thinking about Killer 7. First is that this is a totally crazy, wacky, surreal game. You may think you have some idea about what's going on here, but trust me when I say you don't. This game is going to throw you for a loop, and it's going to be a totally psychotic experience almost the entire way through. A couple notes for you. First of all, if you're a kid, you may be in for some really bad news, especially if your parents decide whether or not you get these games. Fact is, Killer 7 is a really, truly mature title, and for once the M actually means something on the box. So before we go any further, you should really know that this game is packed full of everything that makes a game mature. Blood, guts, gore, profanity, and sexual themes, not to mention a storyline that deals in terrorism, the sale of children, harvesting of body organs, you name it, it's in there. So, still with me? Okay then, let's keep going. Well, you're probably wondering what the hell Killer 7 is, so let me just give you a quick summary. The game boils down to this. You have third-person style exploration mechanics, you've got first-person shooting, and you've got some puzzle solving. And bringing all that together is a really compelling, totally off-the-wall storyline. What you should really know about the control mechanics is that they're so radically different, they're bound to turn some people off right from the start. You don't really have full freedom of control in this game. Rather, when you're exploring in these third-person style levels, what you're really doing is moving your character around on rails. To make the characters move, you simply hold a button that makes them run. And then, when you get to branching pathways, you press the direction you want them to go on the analog stick. That's it. That's how movement works. If you're not into that, you're probably not going to like this game. That said, players who can get beyond the control scheme will find a pretty intriguing adventure game here. In Killer 7, you play as one of 7 deadly assassins contracted to stop the Heaven Smile, a terrorist organization bent on the destruction of the world. You play as Harmon Smith, this frail old man who is bound to a wheelchair. What you don't know about him is that he actually is kind of a schizo, and he has these 7 different personalities that he can conjure from his mind into the physical form. Now, the catch is, each of the 7 personalities has different attributes and abilities which makes them special and powerful. It's your job to use these assassins to figure out how to advance through the game, to fight off enemies, to solve puzzles, and of course to use their special abilities to do all of those. If you look around at some of the games in the industry, you'll see that developers have had hard times creating a single likable character. But Capcom actually outdoes itself by creating 7 very likable characters. Each assassin in the game is very unique and likable for different reasons. Let me just give you an idea on how different some of these characters really are. Harmon is in contact with only one of the Killer 7, a man named Garcian Smith. It's Garcian's job to meet up with various informants, and from there, mission objectives are laid out. Garcian's a cleaner because when another character dies in level, players will actually have to use Garcian to go through the level again and retrieve their dead body and bring him back to life. Surreal enough for you? You've got Mask de Smith, who is this ex-Mexican wrestler turned assassin. And the reason this guy is so important is because he's really strong and can also perform wrestling moves throughout the game. Kevin Smith, who is an albino, can turn invisible at any time, and he can also throw knives. Coyote Smith is able to jump tall distances, kind of like Superman. Khan is a blind boy who can run at Mach speeds, and he can see sound. If you're looking for an all-around balanced character, Dan's the man to go with. So you get the idea. There's a lot of differences here, and you're going to need to capitalize on each character's strengths in order to advance through the adventure. Puzzles are actually kind of a mixed bag here. You've got a selection of puzzles that really make sense, and once you complete them, you're really satisfied having done so. On the other hand, there are some illogical ones seemingly ripped right out of a Resident Evil game. What makes some of the puzzles different in Killer 7 is that you'll actually need to take advantage of the character in order to complete them. And as we stated before, different characters have different attributes. So for instance, you might reach an area where you just can't get beyond it. You're wondering why. If you were to select Kevin Smith and hit the Y button on GameCube, that character would be able to jump up on top of the roof and you would be able to progress forward. The only female assassin in the game is able to slit her wrists and spray blood everywhere, revealing secret passageways, which let you also progress. Occasionally you also get an item that lets you progress. For instance, you'll collect these rings, which when worn will open up certain doors. So the third major gameplay mechanic in Killer 7 is the first-person shooting mode. And here, basically, you hit a button, you go into first-person view, and you shoot Heaven Smile creatures. The catch, of course, is that Heaven Smile creatures are inherently invisible, so you'll need to hit a button to first see them, and then as they approach, you can target specific body parts, shoot them off, or look out for critical points and kill them in one shot. There are two goals in first-person view. The first is to simply kill these guys, and the second is to collect blood. Blood is automatically collected and put into vials, and it's also separated into two types of blood, thick and thin blood. Thick blood essentially lets you enhance your character's attributes, and that makes them speedier, more powerful, and able to aim for longer periods of time, and so on. Meanwhile, after an assassin takes damage, he'll use thin blood to recover his health. So there's a little bit of management here in the whole blood system, and it kind of adds just a little bit of strategy to the experience. I do have a gripe when it comes to boss fights in the game. Sometimes you'll encounter one of these guys and you simply won't have any idea what you're supposed to be doing, and the game only offers very, very vague hints in that regard. Yeah, actually the game seems to give you more hints on how to beat the puzzles than it does on how to master the bosses. As a result, you might find yourself fighting them over and over again until you finally figure it out, which can be frustrating. So what you get here in this video review that you don't get in the text review is, of course, footage of the game in motion. And I think that speaks volumes about why we like it so much. Killer 7 is a really story-driven game. Oftentimes you won't have any idea what's happening, but you'll find yourself very intrigued nevertheless. There's a lot of wacky stuff going on in this game, and part of the thrill is figuring out exactly what it is. The game really succeeds at driving you forward because you want to know what's going to happen next, so you keep playing. I think this is partly credited to the amazing presentation overall. What you have here are some beautiful cel-shaded graphics that don't seem to fit in a really mature game like this, but somehow Capcom has brought the two together. And where the game really excels is at rewarding players for having completed puzzles by giving them extremely gorgeous cutscenes to watch. I can rant and rave about the cutscenes in this game all I want, but really, you have to see it to believe it. And we asked Capcom if we could show you some of the more amazing ones in the game, and unfortunately, because they were so story-driven, we were denied. However, we did manage to get a couple of these, and although not quite as amazing as some of the others, we're going to show you one at the end of the video, so stay tuned. I know that a lot of people are really going to be debating this game for a long time, and I know there's going to be a lot of people who just hate it, but I'm not one of those people. I think Killer 7 is actually really a prime example of a game that's greater than the sum of its parts. Although the control seems archaic by today's standards, it's very functional, and if you can deal with that, you've got a really fun adventure game waiting for you. And one that's bold and new and different, and it takes some chances. And in a video game, that's certainly not commonplace. Coming back to the issue of control and summing up here, I think a lot of people are going to make the point that it's a step backward for gaming because you don't have full freedom of control, and that the game is simply ruined because of that. And I don't feel that's true. I would point to games like Myst, where control was the secondary focus for the designers, and yet they created a very compelling, intriguing product. That said, I realize Killer 7 is definitely not for everybody. This is a game designed specifically, and I do stress specifically, for adults. If you're a kid, you really should think twice about getting this one. Also, I think kids are going to have a hard time wrapping their heads around the game itself because it is pretty abstract and it can be fairly challenging at points. So Killer 7 is all about story, style, and connecting that all together is gameplay. So if you're looking for a good story with a lot of style, this is the game for you. However, if it's all about control for you, you're probably not going to be into this game, and I would really recommend renting it before you buy it. So as I've been saying, there are definitely going to be mixed reviews here, but I like this game, and I've given it an 8.1 on GameCube, and a 7.9 on PlayStation 2 because that version has a slightly more problematic frame rate and slower load times. So I do want to sum up by saying that, a lot of people get down on video games because you're basically getting these templated versions of the same old thing. And Killer 7 strives to be something totally different. It's unique, and I really think it's a smart and bold attempt at something new. I think you could do worse than to check it out. Even if you rent it first to see if it's your cup of tea, give it a shot. And as promised, here for the first time on IGN is an animated cutscene directly from the game. Enjoy.
Well, we don't get many black folk around here. What brings you to town, Almeida? Yes, I see. I just met him today. I meet him every day. You saw the posters around town? You think they're creepy? Well, you better keep that thought to yourself around here, if you care for your life. This is a mean town, and they'll do anything to protect the great Almeida.